Let's step back and remember the warning issued in that campaign advertisement aired before the election, the one that cut straight to the heart of the matter. It made clear that if Donald Trump returned to the Oval Office, there would be few, if any, barriers left to hold back his most reckless tendencies. He would fill key positions with people who nod along unquestioningly, enabling the full rollout of initiatives tied to Project 2025. We've seen early signs of exactly that pattern unfolding. Take his recent comments on potential military action against cartels operating out of Venezuela. He made it plain he has no intention of asking Congress for approval or authorization before launching ground operations there. He stated it casually. It's not a major issue. He doesn't feel compelled to notify them in advance. It's already established in his mind. He wouldn't object to looping them in, but his real concern is leaks. Politicians, he said, can't keep anything confidential. They talk too freely, like a container full of holes. This kind of attitude reflects someone driven more by personal grudges than by steady leadership. He's petty, quick to lash out, and behaves like a spoiled child when things don't go his way. I never once believed I'd find myself in the White House serving under a president who appeared indifferent to the well-being of ordinary citizens across the country. One clear example stands out. After devastating wildfires swept through parts of California, he deliberately delayed or withheld federal disaster assistance. Why? Because that state leans Democratic in its voting. To make the point, staff had to compile detailed figures showing voter turnout in the hardest-hit communities, numbers proving that many residents there had actually supported him in past elections. Only then did the response shift, but the initial reluctance spoke volumes about misplaced priorities. Now consider his ongoing public criticism of Colorado Governor Jared Polis. Trump has repeatedly attacked Polis for refusing to override state processes and release Tina Peters from custody following a presidential pardon effort. He describes Colorado as badly managed under an incapable governor who blocks the release of a dedicated public servant. Peters, he claims, was unjustly punished for uncovering serious irregularities in election procedures, yet the record shows she was convicted on state-level charges related to unauthorized access and tampering with voting equipment, all rooted in unsubstantiated theories about the 2020 results. Can a presidential pardon actually override those state convictions and set her free? The straightforward answer is no. It carries no legal force in that arena. This isn't a legitimate exercise of executive authority. It's an attempt at pressure and intimidation that stands outside established American legal norms. Our constitutional design deliberately reserves criminal justice authority to the states for precisely these reasons. Actions like this stray far from what's considered standard presidential behavior. And you're absolutely right to call it abnormal, because it is. The pattern continues with his remarks directed at military personnel. He has suggested that refusing to carry out his orders as commander-in-chief, even when those orders might cross legal lines, constitutes the gravest form of disloyalty, something akin to sedition at the top levels. In response to a video clip highlighting that concern, Trump labeled such refusal as treacherous conduct deserving immediate arrest and court-martial. He branded those service members as betrayers of the country who should face swift justice. Yet the critical distinction he's ignoring is the requirement that orders be lawful. Military members take an oath to defend the Constitution, not to blindly follow illegal directives. That principle was clearly articulated by Maryland Governor Wes Moore, and it directly echoes every caution raised in that pre-election advertisement. The ad warned of unchecked authority, absent accountability, where loyalty flows in one direction only, to a single individual rather than to the nation or its laws. So what fresh step has Trump taken in this ongoing story? In a move that underscores his discomfort with disagreement, he has chosen to bar every Democratic governor from a long-standing, traditionally nonpartisan White House session with state leaders. He went further by specifically omitting both Colorado's Jared Polis and Maryland's Wes Moore from related events. Recent reports confirm the details. Breaking news indicates that President Trump intends to limit invitations for the annual White House meeting with governors, typically a mixed gathering, to Republican office holders only. White House officials have framed it simply: these are events hosted by the president, so he decides the guest list. Yet coordination had already been underway for more than a week, involving cabinet members and Democratic governors, according to statements from administration spokespeople. They insist Democrats received invitations to a separate dinner portion at the White House, downplaying the exclusion as no real issue. Kentucky Democratic Governor Andy Beshear appeared on ABC's The View this past Monday and directly condemned the decision. He pointed out that the yearly gathering at the White House has always included both parties for constructive dialogue, but this time, Republicans alone get the main session. Beshear made it clear he won't attend the dinner either. He said plainly, "No, count me out. Wes Moore is a personal friend, but even without that connection, the move is fundamentally wrong." The same applies to Jared Polis. Beyond that, no Democratic governor at all was included in the substantive business discussions scheduled later this month. This shift marks a clear departure from decades of precedent. The event aligns with the National Governors Association's winter meeting in Washington, but this year it will feature only GOP participants. A representative for the NGA told ABC News they view the cross-party White House session as a valuable, time-honored custom, and they're troubled by the administration's choice to turn it into something partisan. Pulling specific governors from these important talks reduces opportunities for meaningful collaboration between Washington and the states, something essential for addressing shared challenges. Brandon Tatum, serving as acting executive director and CEO of the National Governors Association, expressed that disappointment in an official statement. President Trump maintains plans for a separate dinner open to governors from both sides, along with their spouses, as part of the broader NGA schedule. Still, invitations never went out to Maryland Governor Wes Moore or Colorado Governor Jared Polis for that meal. No official explanation has surfaced for why those two in particular were left off. Notably, Moore holds the position of vice chair for the NGA, adding weight to the omission. Over recent months, Trump has repeatedly urged Polis to intervene in the Tina Peters case and secure her release after the pardon was issued. Peters was found guilty in state court of participating in a plan to interfere with voting machinery, motivated by persistent but unproven assertions of widespread 2020 election problems. Presidential clemency, however, applies only to federal matters and leaves state convictions untouched. Governor Moore received no advance notice or rationale for his exclusion from the dinner. In a strongly worded statement released Sunday, he suggested the decision might carry racial undertones. He noted that governors from both parties elected him as NGA vice chair, which makes this exclusion feel like deliberate disregard and a direct affront to the principle of cooperative federal-state relations. As the only black governor currently serving in the nation, he pointed out that being singled out for this kind of treatment adds an undeniable layer of significance, intentional or otherwise. ABC News has reached out to the White House for a response to those observations. On Sunday, Moore shared with CNN that the National Governors Association has committed to treating the dinner as unofficial in light of the exclusions. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre issued a defense, reiterating that the president retains full discretion over invitations to his events and confirming that many Democrats did receive dinner invites, even if not all did. If there existed some kind of gauge to measure deep-seated emotional insecurity, something as straightforward as a thermometer you could place under the tongue or against the skin, and you applied it to Donald Trump, the device would almost certainly overload and break. This individual complains constantly, whines about perceived slights, and displays a level of fragility I've rarely seen in any arena of public leadership, whether in elected office, athletics, religious institutions, or even everyday roles like the dedicated kindergarten teacher I once knew back in Oklahoma. It's genuinely disheartening. This latest action lays it bare once more. It also highlights his evident anxiety about the approaching midterm elections. His strategy appears increasingly centered on consolidating control, surrounding himself with unquestioning support, and minimizing any voices that might challenge or scrutinize him.